All right, everybody, welcome to the first installment in video series of Spread Crushers. If you guys aren't familiar with me, my name is Ben Shivers. Played collegiately at Western Oregon University and 4 years as an indie ball player between the American Association and the Frontier League. Today, I've got our first guest and our first interview of the series. It's going to be working with Ryan Basham today. Ryan, glad to see you, man.
Yeah, thanks for having me. It's been a long time. Glad to be here.
Yeah, absolutely. It's been about 10 years. So a little background, just Ryan and I played together briefly in 2009 in Florence when I was traded there. And then I had the undue privilege of pitching against him, which was not a lot of fun. He was a great hitter. So looking forward to kind of hearing some of your insight today in the game of baseball. We'll talk a little bit about obviously the situation at hand. And then I'd like to just kind of let the conversation direct itself between what's going on at your academy, the things you're doing with the younger ball players to keep them working through this whole ordeal. And then, kind of let the conversation continue further into maybe some drills you like to see done, things you look for. And I'd like to get some insight on what you think makes a great baseball player and allow some of these kids and these parents watching these videos just to have a better look at what goes on behind the scenes from athletes of, our level and understanding what it took to get there. So Ryan, if you don't mind, why don't you introduce yourself a little bit just so these people know where you came from, where you went to school, the years you played in pro ball, and kind of some of that basic information.
All right, awesome. Yeah, so I'm originally from Lowell, Indiana, up in the northwest corner, kind of like a Chicago suburb in Indiana, and was three-time All-State at my high school, and so was recruited by Michigan State, and recruiting was way different, as you know, back then.
Yeah. Yep.
Everybody didn't know everybody on the internet. So I was just kind of lucky. Michigan State was there at one of my summer games to see a pitcher from the other team. And I went oppo off that dude. And they're like, we got to talk to this guy, we got to talk to parents. And so otherwise I wasn't really heavily recruited out of high school.
Yeah.
Even in state, like Purdue and Indiana, they early on were showing interest, and then this just kind of fell off. But I was just lucky, and in that one moment, I happened to perform. And so went to Michigan State, played 3 years there, had some really good years there, all Big Ten twice, and then after about the Blue Jays. And so this is where it gets interesting. When I was a freshman in high school, I had an injury. While I was playing basketball, played freshman basketball, dove on the court, and subluxed my left shoulder, my non-throwing shoulder. And throughout the years from the rest of high school and into college, I continued it would actually dislocate. My shoulder would dislocate. I put it back in and continued playing. It never kept me out of a game. When you're young, and I think also the dynamic back then was more of, tough it out, play through it.
Yeah.
And today people they're way more conscious of if you're injured or you're hurt at all, that let's get it taken care of. And so I played through it, and it came back to haunt me on the draft year. So drafted in June of 2006, go down to Dunedin, Florida with the Blue Jays, do my physical there. And during the physical, they're like, you need to get that shoulder checked out,
Yeah.
So I sat around for about a week, and they had me come into the office, and they're like, look, that shoulder is really messed up. You need surgery. We're not going to take the risk on you. So if I had just signed, hadn't participated in anything, they could actually legally void my contract.
Yeah.
And so I was only a junior at Michigan State, was hoping to be able to go back, but they're like, no. You lost your eligibility here because you went down, you signed a contract, you're done. And so it was kind of like this roller coaster of like the pinnacle where I've been training to be my entire life, and then boom, and now I don't even know if I'm going to play baseball again.
Yeah.
It was crazy, super emotional time. Tried to get some options as far as going back to college, and I actually Northern Kentucky called me, D2 school at the time. They're D1 now, but they're D2 at the time, and Todd Aslan there was like, I think D2, the rules are a little bit more relaxed. You can come down here. Let's get you signed up for classes. Let's get you
Yeah.
going. And so I actually signed up for classes, went to a couple practices, and then the NCAA called them and was like, nope, can't do it.
Yeah. Wow.
So, but while I was down there, I actually met up with the Florence Freedom manager, Jamie Keefe,
Yeah.
and he had me hit a little bit for him. And he's like, yeah, we want you to come to spring training.
Okay.
So I went back to school at Michigan State to try to finish up my degree. And then when May rolled around, went down with spring training with Freedom and ended up making the team, and then rookie of the year in the Frontier League. And then went on to have another 4.5 years of indie ball.
Awesome.
So.
And so now what are you doing now, Ryan?
So I've got my own facility here in Whitestown, Indiana. It's a Indian suburb. It's small, real small facility. I've just got one cage in there. Do primarily hitting instruction. I do work with a lot of younger guys. I would say my clientele is mostly, I'd say 75% are the ages 9 to 13.
Mm-hmm.
So a lot of those guys we're working on just basic like throwing mechanics, fielding, but primarily I'm a hitting guy because that's what I did. So
yeah, I remember that well. That is what you did. So yeah, it was not fun facing you, man. It was better being your teammate. I'll tell you that much. So let's transition back just a little bit here, and I want to talk about first off just kind of how you guys are dealing with this situation at your academy with the players that you're working with. Obviously, everybody in the country here is dealing with this. We're facing kind of a weird pandemic. This is something none of us have been through. I know parents are itching to get their kids out on the field. The kids are being kids, they could play, they could not play, but I know most of them are really wanting that ability to go out there. So what are some of the things that you yourself are doing with your clientele base? And I know you said earlier that, you have a 16U team, the Indy Titans. And so what are you guys doing, and how are you expecting these players to stay in shape or to keep moving, keep the arms going and keep the bats going? Is there anything in particular you checking in with these guys? I just want to hear a little bit about that on your side of things.
Yeah, so I've been sending out just some videos of some drills that you can do at home, because I know not everybody has access to a batting cage or be able to go out. A lot of the fields nowadays, I mean, when I was a kid and you were a kid, you could just walk out to a lot of different fields. They'd be open. You go out and hit on them.
Yeah.
Now it seems like it locks them up. You can't get access to these fields. A lot of people don't have a whole lot of equipment to be able to utilize. And so I've been just sending some drills that they can do on their own at home. And I'm going back old school to like tennis ball against the wall, little things that
absolutely.
But you can do it on a daily basis. And that's the biggest thing is, you went from training daily to now, I mean, we're shut down. We're not doing anything. So we got to try to maintain that repetition best we can with the limited resources that you have. So that's kind of where I'm at with these guys. And we've been, at my place, we've been shut down since I think the 20th, somewhere right around the 20th of March.
Yeah. Okay.
Extended to the 20th of April.
Yeah.
And I'm not confident that the 20th of April is going to actually be the date. It seems like they're pushing it back. So I'm just going to continue to send things out to guys, and then also having some of my guys send me stuff. Yeah. Just kind of help them, break down some of the things they're doing, and just give them some more tips and ideas to continue working throughout this time. So.
Yeah, absolutely. So kind of going off that, Ryan, what's some of your advice right now with these parents, especially of the youth levels? Like, let's talk the lower youth levels. Let's say, ages 7, like my son is on the 7U Kentucky Prospects. And, we're working with kids that are primarily their first year in baseball, and even the softball players, because we've got 4 softball teams. And so I want all of these parents to understand, kind of some things that you feel are valued and important during this kind of weird time that we can do. Is it just getting out there and doing anything, or are there certain things that you feel like, hey, playing catch every day is a big deal? are there any tips and tricks for that you might say, this age bracket 7 to maybe 14, we really need to focus on just getting these kids to do X, Y, and Z? I'd like to hear just a little bit about that, maybe further on.
Yeah, well, I mean, the first thing I'd say is I think it's a great opportunity for parents. I mean, mom and dad who haven't had the time to go out and
Right.
play
Yeah.
with their son or daughter,
Yeah.
you got the time, and I see it. I've got a neighbor, his son is in high school here in Zionsville, Indiana, and I see them going out to the park like every other day to play catch together.
Yeah.
I know that doesn't happen during the year because there's time for
Right.
that. I think it's actually, there are some positives to take away from this, negative. And so, yes, absolutely, playing catch is the number one thing that you need to be doing right now, because like I said, if this was a normal time, you'd be playing catch every single day.
Yeah.
And just the way that travel baseball is set up, that you're going to be rocking and rolling immediately when this is lifted, the tournament, say, let's go. And teams are going to feel pressured to get going right away. And that's usually not how it works. You don't go from not doing anything to immediately into full-blown season. So I would say throwing, you got to be doing that every single day right now. And the hitting side of things, if you just hit a bucket, a day, you're going to stay in shape. You don't have to take a million swings every day. But I would, like I said earlier, I think it's just trying to get the repetition. And it's not so much of exactly what are you doing and what type of drills are you doing. It's just, you've got to be doing something every single day. And you've got the time to do it. It's just a matter of finding the space and, the equipment. And like I said, it doesn't have to be elaborate. It can be simple.
So that's a good point there, is hitting a bucket a day. It's kind of what I've suggested to a lot of my clients. And, we've gotten creative. I know some kids don't have a bucket of baseball. So, one of my buddies, Sean Yarbrough, was real big on grabbing a bag of dried beans from the store and flipping the beans up and you hitting them outside. And, a lot guys like us, we laugh a little bit, but it's funny because we did those things with our neighborhood friends when we were younger. Or, sometimes we don't always have, a family dynamic that allows for, the ability to go out and purchase a tee and a net and these things. So we have to get creative in what we do. But, moving forward with that, is there any concern from your end on a safety standpoint, getting this season kind of revved up and going? I know I did an interview with Pastime National Tournaments. I was really fortunate. Tom was able to have me on. And so that's kind of what spurred this idea of doing some video series with professional baseball players and managers and athletic trainers. Is there any concern from your end as a pro guy with these younger players getting geared up and ready to go? And, how do you possibly curtail that or mitigate that so that some of these younger players aren't getting injured, or maybe, not running into that sore arm phase at 8, 9 years old? Is there anything outside of, like we've already talked about, playing catch and getting in whatever we can, a bucket of balls a day off the tee? Is there anything else from a training standpoint or working out, conditioning your body, that you feel is important for that younger age bracket to be doing right now?
Yeah, definitely. Number one is J-bands, that I think for some reason kids tend to not start doing that until at least teenage years. Throwing, whether you're 7 years old or 20 years old, it does structural damage to the shoulder, no matter what, even if you're doing it right. The J-bands are it's kind of like changing your engine oil. I mean, you got to do it every day. It's maintenance, So
absolutely.
So I would start the younger kids on the J-bands right away, and I think that's going to be super beneficial for them throughout their development. But then also, just even if they're not, obviously you don't want 7-year-olds lifting weights, but there's tons of body weight stuff that they can do on their own without a personal trainer there or anything like that. You don't have to go out and spend $100 on your 7-year-old for a personal trainer. But you can find all kinds of exercises just to increase their core strength, their stability, and just kind of set that foundation for them as they work up through the age brackets. So
okay. All right, man. So good stuff. Let's move forward a little bit, because I've got some questions regarding now the older groups, okay, and what you feel is important during this time? Because like we discussed before we started recording the video here, you've got a 16U team, I've got a 16U team. From this standpoint of this summer ball season and moving forward into the fall season as well, this is a really big recruiting time. So this part of the conversation now, I want to transition into the older levels of guys who are in high school that are looking for that opportunity to be seen, to be recruited, to gain an offer. What do they need to be doing right now? And is there any concern on your end of things from maybe some stuff you've heard from college coaches? Is this going to cause any sort of problem in the recruiting process for these guys? And if so, how do they battle that? Is there a certain way that maybe they can use social media to post videos or do things or get in touch with coaches? I'm just curious that's a question I'm going to be asking a lot of you guys through this interview process, is what you feel like, these younger players who are on the verge of getting recruited, maybe freshmen, sophomores, juniors in high school that are really looking forward to a time like this to garner those scholarship offers. What do they need to be doing right now?
Yeah, well, first I'd say I think everybody is in the same boat right now, including the college coaches themselves, of just uncertainty. That it's unprecedented. We don't really know how this is gonna play out. So I don't think there's any sense in kids worrying about it necessarily, because it's beyond their control.
Yeah.
But some of the things you mentioned isn't within their control, just how they're working, how they're presenting themselves as far as social media, and still sending out emails and trying to contact college coaches as much as they can. I think I don't think there's any reason to change what you've been doing just because of the pandemic.
Sure.
As far as your approach to reaching out to college coaches, we just got to kind of see how this plays out. But absolutely, for my guys at the 16U level, I'm always telling them, you got to have a list of colleges that you're interested in, and not so many people want to say, these are my colleges and they're all D1s.
Yeah.
So I like to have guys have a list of maybe, 3 or 4 D1s, 3 or 4 D2s, 3 or 4 D3s, NAIA, JUCO, that they're interested in, and just get in contact, go to their camps if they can, send them videos, everything they can, to show them that they're interested, genuinely interested in that college. And I think that goes a long way with coaches, because if you show that you're interested in their college, you're already kind of bought into the program before you're even there.
Yeah,
this is just some guy off the street, that you've seen, and you have no idea if they're even interested in your program at all.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that goes a long way with coaches. And especially, the vast majority of kids that are going to play college baseball aren't going to play D1. They're going to play D2 and below. And so those schools, if you're contacting them early on, I feel like you set yourself apart with those types of schools. So
absolutely, good stuff. Let's take that one step further here, because what you ended on there with was really great in my opinion. That's a lot of these guys aren't going to play D1, and I know a lot of my players right now are going to be watching this video, and maybe you'll share this with your players too. We're talking 2 guys right now, and we both know this. We're not large individuals. I know for a fact, Bash, I know you're not 6 foot tall. That was one thing that I recognized right away when I got there and watched you hit. I was very fortunate. I felt like when I got to spend that time with guys like you and Tim Grogan and Johnny Welch, Justin Pickett, Billy Mottram. Billy's going to be on the interview here probably in the next week or so. You guys are just fantastic hitters at the next level. And for me, it was really cool to sit back and watch as a pitcher, at that level. Obviously, I was a center fielder and pitcher coming up through high school and really wanted to be a two-way guy. I had this image in my mind of like, man, I'm athletic enough. I'll be a two-way guy. And, went to my first year of junior college and got told within the first 3 weeks, hey, you're just going to pitch or you're not going to be here. And in the long run, it was kind of a wake up call, you know? Yeah, it was, yeah, I'm 5'10", you know? So it was when you're 5'10" and you're right-handed and you threw the ball like I did, which was at the time 89 to 92, that was what everybody was pushing me to. But, you know, what I want to touch on here is, you know, being a guy who what most scouts and college coaches would consider you and I undersized. We're going to be undervalued. You know, there's going to be players that we both have on our teams that are going to be the cream of the crop, the 6'5" guys, and we're going to have the guys that are undersized that are 5'8", 5'9". I'd like to hear some of your insight as to your mindset, some of the things you did, the way you carried yourself, presented yourself, that got you not only to the level of Michigan State, a Big Ten Division I school, but also, you know, what took you to the next level? What do you feel like you had to do in your youth and younger career to get to that level of high level competitive college baseball, and then eventually making your way into not only professional baseball, but like you said, being a very good professional hitter that was well respected between many of our peers, a guy that, I mean, you hit 310 one year. I know your rookie year, I think you hit 285 and was rookie of the year. I mean, I don't think people realize how difficult it is to go to any level of professional baseball and bat 285 and play 93 or 95 games, you know, out of the 96 game season. And doing so as a guy that's 5'10", 5'11", you know, a left-handed hitter, you weren't dominatingly, you know, or intimidatingly large. What are some of the things that you had to do and change the way people saw you so that you could make it to those levels?
Yeah, that's a great. I'm glad you brought up the size thing. For me, I think I never really thought of myself as small, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
It was almost to the point where, like, I feel like my brain almost blocked out the fact that I was much smaller than everybody else. I'd have people say, "Oh, that guy's really big on the field," you know, and talking about maybe an opposing player or something. I'd be like, "Was he?" Like it did. Size didn't come into my mind, so I think kids can almost do themselves a disservice of even thinking about I'm a small player. And it puts a ceiling, artificial ceiling on their potential in their own mind, you know?
Yeah.
I think for me, it was just, I'm going to be the absolute best hitter on the field everywhere I go. And size never entered my mind whatsoever until people were like, "Oh man, how do you do that being so small?" And I don't know. I just do it.
Yeah.
So for me, it was just, I mean, I absolutely worked on hitting. Like I put in more work probably on my hitting than anyone that I ever saw at my age group. I was hitting on field as much as I possibly could. I was lucky, blessed with an older brother, much older. He's about 16 years older than me. And so from the time I could even walk, he was throwing me batting practice, and we'd be a little league field on a weekly basis, probably 2-3 times a week. During the summer, maybe even more. We were a short drive from the fields, and I just hit on field constantly. And nothing, I didn't have any crazy drills I was doing or anything like that. It was just, let's hit batting practice. Let's see where the ball goes. And so I think just absolutely putting all my focus, and maybe somewhat to my detriment, because I didn't really have a defensive position. I was I was a second baseman in high school. And then in travel, I was outfielder, and then eventually college and pro, I moved to outfield full time. I really wasn't there for my defense, but I was there for my stick. And if you can hit, you're not going to sit, right? So, so that was the thing for me. I think overcoming the size thing was just, it never entered my mind. I didn't feel like a small player on the field. And so that would be my biggest advice for small guys is forget you're small. Work your and play like a big person. You know? And it's beyond your control anyways. You know, there's nothing you can do about it. So there's no sense in dwelling on it. So.
Yeah, so it obviously didn't seem to hurt you too much in the recruiting perspective, although I think things are a lot different now from when we went to school, right? I know a lot of coaches now they're a little bit hesitant at times. I've heard it on the phone about, bringing in only a certain amount of players that are undersized. And I think a lot of that has to do with them wanting to make sure that when they have scouts at their games, that the scouts are there looking at big bodies and prototypical players. But what's fascinating about that is as we transition to kind of the pro level talk here, just for, maybe the last 10 minutes or so is, you know, when you get to that level of professional baseball, and obviously I was unaffiliated, I was independent my entire career. You were fortunate enough to be drafted, but unfortunate enough in the sense that you didn't ever get to accomplish that side of the dream. So when you get to that level of professional baseball, it's funny how much you see the discrepancy in size of players. Not everybody is 6'3" and 225. There's quite a few guys on the field like yourself and myself, and I know I got mistaken all the time as an infielder. I mean, pretty much everywhere I played, guys were, when I first signed with the team and you showed up in Kalamazoo or, Florence or Shreveport, Indiana, or Shreveport, Louisiana, sorry, everybody's like, oh, you must be a middle infielder. Oh, no, I'm a relief pitcher, and so we kind of battle that dynamic. But what's interesting is that when you get to that level, the skill sets are so incredibly vast. You've got guys like you said. I never really saw you as even an average outfielder. I thought you were a good outfielder from what I saw. Maybe you were doing a really good job hiding it. I don't know, but maybe we can ask Tim Grogan or Billy on that. But the thing with me was, man, everybody has a skill. And some guys were fortunate enough that they were just very talented players, that they had multiple skills, right? That were just highlight attributes. So what was that thing that set you apart, Ryan, that allowed you to be successful? I know you're going to talk about your hitting, and that's what I really want to discuss here for these younger players is when did you decide and make that conscious decision to build your identity as a baseball player around that? That's kind of what I want to know.
I definitely, as a little leaguer, I mean, back to probably 9-10 years old. It might have been around the time, actually, this is hilarious. I have this sitting right here on this desk right here.
Yeah.
This is the very first home run right here.
That's great that you still got it, man. That's awesome.
Found it. So, during the pandemic, got a lot of time to go through old stuff, and I found this. I was like, this is crazy. 1995. So I was like 10 years old when I hit my first home run. And I think from that point on, I was like, all right, that was awesome. I want to do that again. Yeah. And from there, it just blew up. And by the time I was 12 in my last year of Little League, I was hitting like, averaging almost 2 a game. And so it just, that's where it started. And I think for me, what set me apart, obviously, anybody that played professional baseball when they were 12, 13 years old was likely the best player in their league. And
right. Yeah.
And threw the hardest and everything. And so I think, but what set me apart, as I got older, was my ability to drive the ball to all fields, including going opposite field for a home run, using the whole field, being able to hit off speed, being able to hit against lefties. Really, I didn't have a whole lot of weaknesses in my approach to hitting. And so I think that's what people saw is like, this guy is just hitting consistently, it's this guy that, hits tank home runs and then, strikes out 3 times the next game. But I had consistent contact, hard all over the field. And, that's something that's going to play at the next level.
So because you're absolutely right, man. Watching you hit, I can still remember from the dugout and the bullpen, watching guys like you hit. And the idea that, that consistent hard contact is something that we search for a lot as coaches, and so when you talk about building that identity, was there any sort of like specific approach, or can you walk me through maybe just a little bit of like what your approach was, or maybe what your pregame routine was, so that some of these players can get an understanding of when I get to the field, what am I looking to do from a mental standpoint? What's my mindset as I'm in, maybe in the hole, and then when I'm on deck, and then not necessarily what am I doing in the box, because we all know once we get there, that's just instinctual. We let our natural actions take over there, and it's hard to explain what goes on in a game, obviously, once you're in there in the live at bat. But I'd like to know maybe just a little bit of your pregame routine leading up to that, and then what we did when you were in the dugout on deck, and then once you got on deck, how did you prepare yourself?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm a big tea guy. So every day from college to, well, probably even through high school, every day before the games, I'd be on the tee, and I'd set up middle, away, in, and just work on driving balls to all fields on the tee. And then usually transition into some front toss and then live batting practice if we had it.
Yeah.
But I think the biggest thing for me was my approach was generally up the middle to oppo gap. And I would just kind of trust myself to be able to turn on an inside pitch when I got it.
Yeah.
If I was ever going wrong and having, I obviously, just like everybody else, I went through slumps and had tough times. Early on, I mean, my rookie year, I really didn't hit that well the first couple months. First month or so, I struggled a little bit.
Yeah.
It was really the first time in my entire life I had ever struggled.
Mm-hmm.
And I think I was trying to pull too much. I was trying to do too much instead of just letting myself naturally do what I've always done, which is having up the middle. And, when I pull a ball, it's more of just a reaction. And so that approach to the middle of the field is what really led me to be able to handle, off speed well, handle lefties well, being a left-handed hitter.
Yeah.
And it's always kind of the guiding light to get me, has been a guiding light to get me out of any slumps I was at. It's like, all right, I just need to think base hit up the middle, base hit to left center gap. And it usually worked. So I think the approach is the biggest thing for me. And then as far as the prep for games, like I said, simple was always better.
Yeah.
You don't have to train elaborately. So I was just a tee guy, didn't really have a whole lot of drills or anything, just tee, visualize, very, very methodical. And the way I did it, though, worked very slowly,
Yeah.
Probably a guy who annoyed a lot of other guys because I was in the cage for a long time before the game. But I think, just slowing down, focusing on really visualizing the pitch of the game. And then as far as during the game, in the dugout, I'm timing the guy before, like, as soon as he gets out to his warm up, I was always timing the guys. And when I say timing, I'd stand there and then just take my stride, not swinging, just thinking about getting my movements synced up with this guy's movements, and, I'd be just talking to other guys and what they're seeing, as far as what the pitcher's throwing, what his pitches are doing. And then in the hole and on deck, it's all about just trying to think, visualize, and get the timing down. So that when you box, you basically feel like you've already been there, even if you haven't been there.
Yeah.
I was a big ambush guy. And so I wanted to be absolutely ready for that first pitch down the middle, because to me, might be the best pitch you're going to get. So I want to be ready from first pitch that I see in a game to be able to just absolutely unload on the guys. So
I think that's good stuff. And one of the reasons I'm really excited about doing all these interviews is listening to each guy's perspective and how unique it is when it comes to the topics of hitting. Obviously, I'm going to be interviewing guys that are pitchers like myself. I'll be interviewing, like I said, athletic trainers and pro ball managers. But when I interview the position players, you guys all had to hit and play a position, So I'm looking forward to hearing what it takes from each guy's perspective and what helped them get to that level. And it sounds like for you, basing what I remember in it, all this stuff is very vivid to me because I love, playing that game. And I loved remembering all of my teammates and the guys I faced. And I can still go through at bats in my head. Is I loved listening and hearing to approaches about what made certain hitters successful, and listening to you right there. I like how you slowed things down. You were very methodical. I also like that you weren't very elaborate in your drills. I know, for example, as an instructor myself, and I love teaching hitting, and I think I'm a pretty good hitting instructor for, most of my clientele, but I know that wasn't my forte. And so for me, I always try to tell my hitters, build an identity of who you are and what you're capable of doing and hold on to that. Certain guys are going to be big dudes with high leverage swings that can just run balls out of the yard, and with those guys, I'm looking forward to interviewing a guy like Matt Fields, who's a good buddy of mine, who's 6'5", 260, and he was a guy that can hit a ball 500 feet. But, dealing with that from you is, that wasn't your game. It sounds like your game was up the middle, opposite field, like you said, hitting the ball in the gap and running and moving, and being a consistent force at the plate of someone who's always going to hit the ball hard. And so the last thing I'd like to ask you is what do you feel, or I should say this, do you feel like building that identity at an early age and adhering to that is important in your development as a hitter and as a player?
Yes. Yeah, absolutely. But I think you also have to be careful again about putting some sort of artificial ceiling on what you
Right.
could be.
Yeah.
And so, I always had the feeling like I'm going to be, like I said, I'm going to be the best hitter on the field, no matter what level I got to.
Yeah.
And so, you want to have an identity. You want to know what you're best at and what's going to get you to that next level. But you also want to, really, really not put any ceiling on that, whatever that is, just tell yourself you can be the absolute best at whatever it is if you work hard enough.
Yeah.
And so, whether that be a defensive thing, if you're a shortstop and you are the absolute best fielder on the field at all times, then, absolutely work your butt off at that. But I do think there's definitely value in owning up to whatever that is, whatever your forte is, whatever makes you, and working, because it just gives you a clearer picture of what am I doing here? Why am I here? What am I working on right now?
Yeah.
And I think it's important to keep you in a consistent process, because there's so much information out there, and I am absolutely bombarded with stuff on social media constantly. And even for me as a trainer, as a coach, it's like, okay, I got to stay the course here. It's good to take information from here and there, but you got to kind of know what your identity is. And I'm speaking to coach or instructor, and say that. And it's going to, you're going to change, and, as you get older and you get bigger, your path might change a little bit. You might get a little bit stronger and be able to drive the ball out of the yard. And so that changes a little bit. But how you do it probably is not going to change that much. So.
Yeah, absolutely, man. Yeah, I just wanted to hear a professional hitter's advice on that, because I know, a lot of guys, I feel like when they get to a certain level and they make that jump, whether that jump is from high school to junior college or junior college to Division II or D1, if you're lucky enough, and then from there to professional baseball, we all get there for a certain reason. And it's usually because we have a defined set of attributes, and that's someone saw that and it said, hey, man, this translates to the next level, and we're going to take a chance on you and give you that scholarship to Michigan State, or we're going to bring you into the Florence Freedom, And I can remember vividly seeing a lot of guys come into not only pro ball, but just going back to Division II Western Oregon and watching these guys come into this program and thinking, these guys are better than me. Like, they're more talented than me. They're X, Y, and Z. They're taller, they're faster, they're stronger. And a lot of them didn't make it, and a lot of them didn't have successful careers. And a lot of guys at pro ball came in and were a 8th round draft pick, and they got released after 3 years, and they made it to high A, and they came down to indie ball, and they were released after 3 weeks, and
Yeah.
so what was always fascinating to me, and the reason I brought that question to you, is I believe, like you said, you should never put an artificial ceiling on yourself and what your potential is. And I think that's an outstanding thing for these younger players to hear. But I also wanted to make sure, not to drive my own point on top of yours, but I also wanted to make sure that they understood there's going to be slumps, and there's going to be times when you fail miserably for 2 or 3 games in a row, like we all did. And it's
Yeah.
what you did. I'll never forget that. My college coach told me, what got you here is what you need to continue doing. You don't always need to change and try to reinvent yourself, but you do need to highlight your attributes and remember, this is what got you here, and this is why you're playing at this level. Whether it's 9, 10 years old, where they're just playing for fun at that point and they're developing skills, to the time that they make their first real big time major travel ball team at 14 years old. What is it? Are you a speed guy? Are you an infield guy that because you got great leather? Are you a big arm on the mound? Those are things that, like you said, we have to adhere to, because that's what we are. We need to understand our strengths. But like I really enjoyed you saying, don't put that artificial ceiling on yourself, and always continue to improve upon. And when you fall and when you fail back to that lowest level, just remember, like, that's your identity. So what's going to get you out of a slump, Ryan, was going middle away and understanding that you're a guy who could consistently drive the baseball for singles and doubles. And then, like you said, if someone made a mistake, you had the instinct to turn on it and run it out of the yard, and I want a lot of younger players, especially because of how great of a hitter you are. I really hope a lot of people pay attention to this video from the hitting perspective, is listening to a guy like you talk about that routine and that program and that mindset of what keeps you successful and what gets you to those next levels. So anyways, man, I appreciate that. The last question I'm going to ask you, because the title of the series right now, and I use that term loosely because who knows how many videos this will be. The title of the series is Spread Crushers. So hypothetically speaking, we're on the road. We're showing up in whatever ballpark, whatever field the clubhouse attendant sets out all the food. What's your number one spread? And for those of you who don't know what spread is, that's the food that they lay out on the table, whether it's pregame or postgame. What's going to bring you to be that spread crusher that everybody goes, man, this guy's just eating everything right now? What's that one food that you just couldn't get enough
of? I think, so are we talking about what was actually on the spreads, or if I could choose something?
No, what was actually on the spreads? Yeah, it's a great question. What was actually on the spreads?
Yeah. I mean, at the time, I was a big peanut butter and jelly guy. I'm not going to lie.
That's great.
Out of peanut butter.
Yeah.
Out of jelly. But I think there was probably a 5-year span after I got out of pro ball that I never ate a peanut butter and jelly again. And now I'm okay with them again now.
Yeah.
They're not too.
Yeah.
But so every once in a while I'll have one. But I would definitely eat, I ate my fair share of peanut butter and jellies.
Yeah.
From pregame meal on the Frontier League dime, wasn't much. We were playing for peanuts.
Yeah.
Or hot and ready from Little Caesars sometimes.
Yeah. I love it, man.
So it's just funny how nutrition didn't really enter into our minds at all.
Yeah. Yeah.
You just had to survive, So
absolutely. Well, Ryan, man, I appreciate you having you on. Last thing I'm going to say, bud, is if you've got any social media presence for drills for these guys, anybody watching, whether it's a YouTube channel or an Instagram or anything that they can follow, go ahead and, give it to us now so that these guys and these players and parents have something to look forward to.
Yeah, absolutely. I've actually got a couple. So I've got Basham Baseball is on Facebook and YouTube, and that's for my place, my academy. Okay. And so I've been sharing a few videos of different drills that you can do at home. Like I said earlier, they're just things that you can do with little to no equipment. So that'd be a great thing for them to be able to follow. And then also I've been working on for over a year now, doing an online program called Hitting Made Simple. And so this is a long process. I'm trying to put everything absolutely all of my energy and heart into this. But it's a very professionally done video training program. And so it's probably going to roll out here maybe in the fall,
Okay.
hopefully.
Yeah.
The process is taking a lot longer than I anticipated, but
Yeah.
it's called Hitting Made Simple, and we're on Instagram and on Facebook. Hopefully get some YouTube videos up here soon too. But goal with that is to, like I said, have it rolled out hopefully in fall. Give guys something to do over the winter to enhance their training. So guys, check that out.
Will that be a subscription based thing online, or is that going to be something that you know, how does that work there?
Yeah, we're still working that out. I've kind of gone back and forth on whether it's going to be subscription or if it's just going to be a one-time purchase of the program. The reason it's taken so long is we've got literally hundreds of videos to edit.
Mm-hmm.
So, you know, probably 60 to 70 different drills. But like I said earlier, it's not just about mechanics. I mean, the majority of my drills and the things we're talking about is more on the approach side of stuff.
Perfect.
And so I think that's how I want to differentiate Hitting Made Simple from some of the other things is just a little bit more on approach, mental game. We've also got, I teamed up with a guy, Dale Speckman. He's got a huge background in strength training with younger guys. And so he did a program, a strength and stability program for Hitting Made Simple. And so I'm super excited about it. I think it's going to be pretty awesome. It's been a lot of work and it's taken a lot of time, but really excited. I think it's going to be pretty awesome. So.
Well, great, man. I'm glad you're doing that, and I definitely look forward to seeing that. And I'll definitely give you a follow there on Basham Baseball. Check you out. And guys, if you're watching this video, please do go to his YouTube channel and his Facebook page where he runs that academy, Basham Baseball. Give him a look. Watch those videos. This is a great professional hitter here in his time in the 5 seasons that I knew him and watched him hit. So glad to have you aboard, man. Thank you for doing this interview. I hope that a lot of the younger players get something out of this, and we'll share it around a little bit and see who can gain some knowledge from this, man. But once again, thanks for having me aboard. Thanks for taking the time.
Yeah, absolutely, man. It was fun. I'm glad you reached out to me last night, and bam, we got it.
Yeah, exactly, dude. It was great. All right, Brian. Take care of yourself, man. Have a good one.
All right, you too. Take it easy.
Yep.